So it's really good for the mother to do her own work on resolving trauma, which can be done through body work, through hypnosis, through being out in
Energy work
nature,
through
energy work, singing, chanting, dancing, doing art,
some of the
because
different things we're
trauma
going to
is
offer
a
in this
whole,
course.
that's right. Oh, I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
Because trauma is a whole body mind experience. So you can come at it cognitively, intellectually. You can come at it through meditation. You can come at it through breath work. But at some point, you have to do the body. And the body in the cells is healed through contact with nature, through all these things I just suggested, and through touch, and the tone of voice. So it's very hopeful. The fact that we have so much in the way of options for healing and integrating trauma and shock is a direct result of how much trauma and shock we have. That a
Right.
lot of people have now begun to find ways, craniosacral work, gentle chiropractic, I mean, all
Just
kinds
to
of ways.
seek for ways, right.
Yeah.
And
So
there's
that's
more than one way, which is
many ways.
wonderful.
And some ways work better for some people than others. So, but I
Hmm.
do think always telling the baby the story of its birth is really important. It's just like telling an adopted baby or a foster care baby the fact that of its origins and what happened. But the mother or foster mother or adoptive father, whatever, have to be able to do it in a clear, straightforward way. And at the level at which the baby or the child can handle it. So, not too complex. So that's the good news about trauma. It's never too late to heal from a lousy birth experience.
So, and it may be down the road, um, and obviously there's a lot of different things that maybe that you've mentioned that people didn't do, and maybe they wish that they could have done that now, if they could go back and do it
They
again.
can,
So maybe talk about
and they
that.
can. Well,
How
it's
is
never,
that possible?
when you first begin to recognize that what happened to you was far from satisfactory or satisfying, and you begin to connect that what happened to you affects your child, your baby, and your 10-year-old acting out child, then you can begin to see that it's really a system that needs to be healed, the parent-child system, the family system. And you can do that at any age. You can start wherever you are, which could be 65 years after you had this horrific experience in an intensive care nursery, and you were left to scream, and they were given shots and blood was drawn without anyone talking to you, and you were in excruciating pain on a repeated basis, and nobody explained it, and nobody, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
This can be 60, 70 years down the road,
And you
and it
be
will
little
improve the quality of
ladies,
your life.
yeah, little old ladies in a nursing home remember their births. They remember the
Yeah.
circumstances and the details of their births. You do,
And
this is staying with you
they
forever.
remember the kids they gave birth to, and they remember with greater detail and vividness the further away it is, because when you get older you remember the earlier memories clear. So the other thing is that every baby knows how it was born, every body knows, so people can access what their life in the womb was like through drawing with the opposite dominant, non-dominant hand, through waiting when they wake up in the morning in what's known as a hypnagogic state and very spacey, just getting a piece of paper and a pen and start writing what I remember about being in my mom's tummy was. What I remember was, and just keep writing it and see what comes up.
When you're still
It's
kind of
accurate.
connected to that, your subconscious.
Exactly.
Right.
Because actually that's what's called implicit memory. And it's all there. And nobody's bad behavior as an older child or a toddler or a teen or an adult happens for no reason. It always happens because of other things that have led to it. It's very important because we tend to just put things in boxes. Oh, that's a bad baby because all he ever wants to do is eat. Well, he almost starved in the womb. His mother was smoking. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or he was born by cesarean and he didn't have labor, or he had a very long, complicated labor, and he's angry or depressed
And he
or
doesn't know why he feels that
no,
way.
no, or doesn't feel connected to his mother. And I'll give you an example. A woman who was in a class long before I understood trauma, um, at the depth that I do today, she was in a class at the Holistic Childbirth Institute that I was teaching in the evolution of childbirth practices. That was way back in 1978, a little after Immaculate Deception came out. And this woman was a nurse, and she took my course, and she was a lovely person. And we got to talking about the mother-baby relationship and the mother-baby bond. And something went off in her head, and she said, "Suzanne, is that why my son won't look at me?" And I stopped in my tracks. I said, "How old is your son?" 6. I said, "Tell me more. What do you mean he won't look at you?" "He's never looked at me, never looked me in the eyes." I said, "You telling me he's 6 years old and he has never made direct eye contact with you?" She said, "Yes." And I just practically wept. I just said, "Oh, my dear, you're an amazing person that you could care for your son and love your son who gives you no feedback that he loves you and that you're a good mom. You're amazing." And then she told me the story of his birth. He felt betrayed and never connected. And I'm sure she didn't know about skin to skin and, a lot of things we know about now, cranial sacral work that could have been done on him. But there's a
Because who's
mother.
telling who's out there, especially in prior years, who is out there telling people how important these things are? And so these things are being missed, and there's a lot of opportunity for trauma.
Yeah. And so this is a lot of what I do in my teaching and in films and in Birthing the Future, the nonprofit that I have, which is
In your 7
birthing,
books,
birthingthefuture.org, and the books I write and the organizations I'm part of. A lot of it is now looking at the whole system. And that by that I mean the mind, body, spirit, social system, and the big environmental picture. And that includes everything from the degraded toxic soil to the toxins in women's breast milk from Roundup being sprayed on everything to climate change. We cannot separate any of it. It all is connected. And that's a huge thing for people to wrap their mind around. And once they get it, it's like a light bulb goes on and they can no longer ever see anything as just isolated. Oh, it's just he was a bad baby. Oh, it's just that my milk was too thin.
yeah.
Because it's all interconnected and interdependent.
Well,
And
and
that means
if
the
we look to
healing too.
yes, and if we look even back into the past, back into the twilight sleep days and even beyond, but particularly there was a lot of our practices that came out of twilight sleep days when the mother was completely knocked out and the baby was delivered by the doctor, and now so many things stem from that. And so generationally, there's a lot that can be passed down to us through our genealogical lines.
Yeah, and some of it is implicit memory. Some of it is through stories. Some of it, there's a whole field of energy that operates within a family and around an individual. We are not just mind and body, but we have an energetic electromagnetic field all around us. And so that when we are in contact with others, even just a couple of feet away, that our energy, and actually at the molecular level, we are exchanging molecules. And when you talk about a baby should never be, I don't do a lot of nevers, but should never be more than 3 feet from the body of an adult, because that's the distance that it can feel very closely that person's energy field and heart. Now, the energy field extends way further, 6 feet, 9 feet. But a good rule of thumb is a baby needs to be within 3 feet, whatever you're doing. So in the 1950s and early 60s, when people were bottle feeding babies and putting the bottles in quilted, padded bottle proppers, so they didn't have to touch the baby, so the woman could go about cleaning the house or doing her kitchen cleaning or whatever she was supposed to be doing at home all alone. That baby was sometimes rooms away from her and had nobody connecting to its feeding.